At the time in metalcore, sweep picking was not as common as it is now, so I really thought I was on the cutting edge of something back then. I wrote this riff on the toilet. That is a true story. That was kind of the idea, was just to start the album with something super uncomfortable sounding and dissonant. What's up, y'all? My name is Paul.
I'm Tristan.
We are the axe wielders in between the Buried and me, and these are 5 riffs that have made me one of the wealthiest musicians on the planet. This first riff is from our 2005 album, Alaska. The song is called Selkies, The Endless Obsession. This one was kind of the first sort of riff that seemed to latch on to folks. So it's been a special song for us for a lot of years. It's the one song that we've kind of constantly kept in the rotation throughout the 20 plus years that it's been out. Most of it is in 7/8, although there's some metric modulation. It kind of moves in and out of 7/8, 3/4. There might be some 4/4 in there, and then there's also a little bit of key modulation in there that makes it kind of interesting. And it's the start of the song, so it kind of sets the stage for the rest of the tune. Without further ado, here is the riff. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Selkies riff, and this is not known by too many people, but this riff I wrote. Tommy and I lived in Charlotte in this really sketchy apartment, and I wrote this riff on the toilet. That is a true story. I was playing guitar, nature called. Sometimes when you're in the throes of jamming, you gotta just bring the guitar with you. And so I was on the toilet writing, messing around on the guitar, and I wrote that riff. So in the future, if you're ever seeing us live, if you're ever jamming the album and you hear that song and that riff, just know your boy was doing a little doo-doo at the time. This next riff is from our album, The Parallax 2 Future Sequence, which is part 2 of a 2-part series called The Parallax. It was EP, Parallax 1, and then the full length was Parallax 2. The song is Silent Flight Parliament. Also, this one is the intro riff. Without further ado, here is that riff. 1, 2, 3, go. So this riff's interesting because it was written originally on an acoustic guitar, and it was meant to originally be kind of like this like Opethy sort of arpeggiated, clean acoustic chord kind of part. And so it sounded something like this. Kind of like that. And then as we started building the album out, and we knew this song was going to be kind of the finale song, I kind of realized that we needed to do something, start the song with something heavier. So then basically, if we go to the heavy channel, I just kind of arpeggiated the chords differently, so just to make it a heavy riff. And so that's how we ended up with So that's how we ended up with that. We just kind of made all the notes lower and played it on the distortion channel, and that ended up becoming the intro riff to the song and the outro riff of the song. So yeah, that's an example of how a part that was kind of written in a very different way with a totally different purpose still came out really cool. This next riff is also from 2005's Alaska, from the song Alaska. Again, in keeping with the theme here, this is the intro riff, and it's just this sort of cascading rhythm or cascading sweep pattern along some very simple chord changes. And at the time in metalcore, sweep picking was not as, I guess, common as it is now. So I really thought I was on the cutting edge of something back then. I think I was probably wrong about that. But anyway, it came out really cool, and I think it's a cool start to a song, and it's a part that a lot of people seem to gravitate towards, and we get a lot of requests to play this song live, and we rarely ever do it. 1, 2, ready, go.
Meet the GTSA electric guitar case from Gator Cases. Offers premium protection for your electric or acoustic guitar while you travel. Built with military-grade polyethylene, this case is resistant to heavy impact, moisture, dust, and other elements that could damage your instrument. The black padding on the interior of the case protects your guitar from scratches, and the heavy-duty locks that keep your guitar secure are TSA compliant and make for easy travel from show to show. The distinguishing feature of the GTSA Guitar Case LED Edition is the LED light embedded in the interior lid of the case, allowing you quick and convenient access to your guitar pick, capo, and other accessories. For serious musicians, the GTSA electric guitar case from Gator Cases offers top-of-the-line comfort and protection for your electric or acoustic guitar.
All right, this next one, also an intro riff. This is from our album, The Great Misdirect, and this is the intro to the entire album. This song is called Mirrors. I'm just gonna play the intro part, but this is a clean section, so it's one of those, we thought it would be like an ideal intro to the album. So here is that part. And that intro was written with the idea that, each little sort of melodic lead is kind of meant to create like a dissonance or kind of a discomfort. And then every chord that you land on is supposed to provide some resolution. And sometimes we kind of land on diminished chords or some other kind of like almost dissonant sounding chord, but it still provides some sense of relief, as the first line is very dissonant and has this almost like non-centered tonality. And then we land on this E flat diminished chord, and it kind of adds a little bit of relief. And then you have the next line. There's that E flat diminished again, only this time it's super duper dissonant and lands on this E minor, which adds some relief. So, and then it just continues going that way. And then eventually sort of does this sort of G harmonic minor kind of walk down of chords, like starting with the 6th chord. And then resolves on an E minor, which is kind of interesting. So the G sharp harmonic minor kind of resolves nicely back to that E minor. And then we're back sort of in the same tonality as the beginning of the part, where it repeats. So that was kind of the idea, was just to start the album with something super uncomfortable sounding and dissonant, but at the same time had kind of a melodic momentum that eventually gets us back into E minor, which is where the next song, Obfuscation, starts. So that was the idea behind that. And yeah, that's the intro to the entire album. This final riff is from our album Colors, 2007. This came out. This is like the album for us. This was such a pivotal record. This is where we started kind of incorporating a lot more progressive influences. Musically, this was our first like conceptual record, meant to be listened to sort of from start to finish. And the last song is called White Walls. Kind of have this sort of outro section that leads into the solo that finishes the album. And it's really just a super simple chord progression that I wrote, like this E minor to C major 7 to like an A sus chord. So very simple chord progression, and everything melodically is sort of built around that chord progression and kind of goes from there. And I like that progression because it has two notes, the B, well, for us it's a G sharp and a C sharp, but we'll call it the open B and the open E for the sake of communication. And those notes remain constant throughout the progression. And I just love chord progressions like that where some notes remain static while other notes kind of move around. It creates this very cool, like, you know, they call it a common tone chord progression. So I just thought that would be a cool, like, hypnotic chord progression to kind of build everything from. And yeah, and then we build sort of a little lead part that's harmonized over the top of that. So here it is. When I started sort of building the melodic part behind the chord progression, you know, I really took it like a chord at a time. So I was like, well, with this E minor chord, you know, how do I want to color that chord? And so I just kind of decided to start it with this sort of add 9 kind of sound right there. So, and then I was like, well, then within that box, I've also got the 7th here. And then so I just kind of built like a little phrase out of that. Right? And then